Welcome back. It is Tuesday night, and we're here for another edition of Getting Defensive, brought to you by Gridiron Ratings. I am your host, Craig Reith. You can find me at RotoHeatCraig. And we do have a special guest with us tonight. You all know him, but he's on with us tonight, Johnny the Greek. You can find him at OrangeMan3142 on Twitter. How are you doing tonight, Johnny?
Good. How you guys doing? Nice to watch. You guys watch that Monday Night Football last night? Winston looked decent. That was surprising.
Yeah. You know what I took from the game? I think Jacksonville IDPs are good to own this year. I think they're going to see a lot of snaps. I think they're going to be above average. So if you can grab one, he's full time. Hey, you're a winner.
Of course, we have our two staples of the show here back from special assignment last week. We have James. You can find him at WhatMoney3000. How you doing, James?
I'm doing well. I'm glad my special assignment is over, and I'm back with everyone ready to dive right into some IDP content.
And, of course, the man himself, Gary, the IDP tipster. We got through our technical difficulties. How are you doing besides those, Gary?
Same old thing, man. But I'm glad James got back in one piece. I'm glad somebody is watching this at some point because he knew what we was talking about. So, but I'm glad to have John on and glad to have James back, ready to roll.
And we usually talk about this later in the show, but remember to go and subscribe to the Gridiron Ratings YouTube account. Every 25 subscriptions, they're giving away the $40 value draft guide playbook, the PDF that they keep up to date. And we're mentioning that now tonight because we did go ahead and have a drawing to give one of those away. They had hit another milestone of the 25 mark, had hit over the 150. So we have one to give away, and we did do a drawing of that before the show of the subscribers. So if you're not subscribed, please go do so. And Lance Simpkins, you are the lucky winner of the Gridiron Ratings draft guide and playbook. So congratulations. Hopefully you're seeing this now or in the future. If not, I know they're going to try to track you down to make sure that you can get that. But congratulations once again, and please go subscribe. Jumping into our news here quick, it's fortuitous because there's a lot of it, and James is going to talk about it in a little more in depth. But we have a number of news items that have to do with injuries. And Gary, I'm going to go to you to this one first, not to rub salt in the wound, but because I know you have something to say about it. The Jets, the second Jet in as many weeks, just within the same week, really. He's going to be out through their bye probably around the week 6 time frame with an ankle injury. It could have been a lot worse, but I know he was one of the people you had your eye on. So how do you feel about this affecting Jared Davis in redraft leagues this year?
I just went through Drew Tranquil withdrawal because, I kind of had that feeling. It's a linebacker I lost last year, folks. And I just was – Jared Davis was on his way to reviving his career. I fully believe that, at least getting a hell of a shot of doing it. But either way, he's out till bye week with the ankle injury. After I quit crying about it, and then I went into shock a little bit, and then I was mad for a while. But you only get so many shots when you're trying to make these calls on these guys, and that was sickening. But I'm kind of neutral in the whole situation because of course, both the two rookies that were getting a lot of love over the off season, both of them are going to get an opportunity to play. One of them is probably going to play quite a bit of snaps, but I really do believe that when Davis comes back around the bye week 6, something like that, I don't think that he'll lose his position. I think that he'll insert right back in. He's already improved in his pass coverage and his limited snaps last year. He actually showed some of that, but there's a lot of love there for the Jets. So I don't think that either one of these rookies, that being late round, I believe 5th, 6th, 7th, I don't think either one of them are going to be able to really just come out and be better than C.J. Mosley, and I think that's probably what it would probably take to earn that spot. I think Jared Davis actually has impressed a lot of people in camp. But
Well, it sounds like you're at the acceptance and hope. You worked yourself through the 7 stages of grief already here. So it's good to hear that you've come out on the other end. Johnny, any thoughts on Jared Davis and if you prefer either one of these rookies?
Yeah, so Justin Barnes was huge on Jared Davis too. That was one of the guys he really liked this year. So here's my thing. I read up on this a little bit earlier today, and Jamie Sherwood, I guess, only missed 5.6% of tackles in college, which is pretty good, like overall.
oh yeah,
Robert Saleh compared him to Fred Warner, which is high praise. But here's my thing, right? So yes, the Jets will be better on offense this year. How can they not be, right? Like they were terrible last year. They were dead last in time of possession last year. That's, over game to game, that's a couple minutes, compared to most teams. It's not a lot. It's only like 4 to 6 plays. But those extra 4 to 6 plays for those defenders is extra chances at production. So I'll take that. We're already splitting hairs, right? Linebacker's a flat position. We're splitting hairs anyway. If that's a positive factor for my guy, I'll take it. Plus, you look at guys like Harvey Lange last year, were able to produce and get a lot of people into the first, second round of fantasy playoffs and produce well for them. So if they're alive and have a pulse and playing inside linebacker for the Jets, they're going to get you points. So I'm on board. No preference on either. Just whoever gets the job, I'll take it. Yeah.
James, any thoughts?
I just echo exactly what Johnny said. Whoever is there getting those tackles is going to be the guy worth rostering. We all thought it was probably going to be Jared Davis, and Gary gave a very nice eulogy on Jared Davis's season in terms of he's not going to come back and be a fantasy force because in all likelihood that Jets team is going to be not doing super well. They're going to want to have those young kids play. They're going to ease Davis back.
Getting defensive on me.
Oh, I am. It's the name of the show. And while I don't think that Davis is a bad talent, I think that this just kind of ruins his year. And unless you have deep injury slots where you can just stash essentially anyone, I'm ready to cut bait once I run out of my injury room.
All right. We have probably about 3-4 more things here, and I'm going to read these off. And then, Johnny, I'm going to let you pick which one you want to talk about here so we get through the news. LJ Fort is out for the season. He had played around half the snaps for the Ravens last year. He tore his ACL. Zadarius Smith could potentially miss week 1 with a back injury that they don't think is something long-term, but may linger into the season. The Vikings signed their old friend Everson Griffin to a contract to return this year. And then Jacob Phillips, linebacker for the Browns, is out for the year. So whichever one of those you want to run off on.
I gotcha. I'll take the LJ Fort one, but I do like the Griffin signing. He's not going to be a full-time guy or a high snap guy for them, but it's value on a guy a lot of people had just left on their benches from last year and was hoping he'd sign. He did, and we'll take it. But yeah, LJ Fort. So if it's Malik Harrison, whoever it is, it doesn't matter. That was not a productive position last year. There were like smatterings of good games every now and then, but then you'd look at the snap percentage and you'd be like 32%, 50% tops. Like if you're relying on that for consistent production, you're toast. It's going to bite you at some point. So I was never really into that other linebacker slot to begin with. So whoever the replacement is, I'm not into it. But I'd love to know what you guys think on that.
James?
Yeah, I say what I said after the first segment. Echo what Johnny said. I'm not going to go and dive in on a Ravens linebacker until they need me to, which means I'm going to be the person who misses out on him because someone else will dive in first, and I'm okay with that. Looking at these other injury options, I'll go in division and talk about Jacob Phillips, my Browns guy, because I love talking Browns. I don't think he was going to be a very good IDP asset this year, but I thought if injuries happen, he could step up and perform. I think he has the talent to step in and be that guy who gets funneled tackles in that Browns defense, who teams are kind of targeting because that secondary is so good and that pass rush is very good. So it's unfortunate. He wasn't likely to do well, but I like to think of him as kind of a handcuff in a sense to Anthony Walker. And with him gone, it's just kind of sad. Not really devastating by any means, but something to have of note.
Yeah, and I have to agree with that. Both of them. When it comes to Smith with the Packers, hopefully his back's better. I mean, realistically, there's not much else. because you got Preston Smith and then you've got kind of an unproven Gary out of Michigan, I believe is who it is. I wouldn't go running out and get neither one of them. It's one of those things. If one of them happens to fill in for Smith, if Smith misses an extended period of time, make them prove it and earn their waiver wire. Other than that, there's not that much there. They'll miss Smith if he's not there.
All righty. And with all that mainly injury news again, that's going to lead us into James's topic of the week, which is regarding injury luck. So take it away, James.
Yeah, so we just spent a good 5 minutes kind of talking about injuries, and we're only on the defensive side of the ball. When you go over on the offensive side, Travis Etienne, probably done for the year now, massive injury. Before that, earlier in the game, we had Adam Troutman get carted off. We don't know what his prognosis is. Then, even way before that, we had Cam Akers, not even just having a season-ending injury, but he having a career-altering injury. And, what does this say between this and Jared Davis, LJ Ford, Jacob Phillips on our side? Well, there's a gap between those names in terms of fantasy value. LJ Ford, Jacob Phillips, they're not Travis Etienne. But all that means is it's coming on the defensive side of the ball. We haven't had the big name go out yet, but it will come. Why? Because every single season, injuries do happen. It's going to happen. It's always going to happen. And when it does, people are going to say, oh, I predicted it. He's injury prone. I saw that coming. Or, oh, I would have never touched him because I knew he was going to stay healthy. And that's why I had to have him on my roster, even though that's a contradictory statement. Regardless of what it is, people are going to try and predict injuries. They always have. They always will. And if you're smart enough, you understand that that's just luck and variance. There's no at all sizable difference between a highly injured player and a lowly injured player. It's all just playing the game of football. It's nonsense, really, to think otherwise. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, depending on who you have on your roster, where and why, you're happy with these injuries or you're sad with these injuries. But every year they happen. Every year they will continue to happen. And you got to remember, you win fantasy football by playing through injuries. There's going to be the guy who goes, oh, my first 3 picks got hurt. Or the guy who goes, half my roster's out this week. And you know what? Every single person deals with them. It's modern football, where the regular season is approaching more and more like a preseason, and the playoffs are approaching more and more like the season. That's why we have the IR designated to return. Players, more than ever, are sitting out games. Why? So they're good for the playoffs, as opposed to just playing another regular season game. So you have to keep that in mind. You have to understand it. And kind of like I said with Jared Davis, you have to be ready to move on. They're names, and you like them, but when it's time to cut bait due to injury, it's unfortunate. But if you want to win, you got to keep going.
I like that. Can I speak on that? Can I
Yeah,
speak on
go
that?
ahead.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's draft season right now. Everyone's loves their. I like drafts. We all like drafting. We're degenerates here, right? It's 10 o'clock on a Tuesday. We're talking about football on a live stream. We're degenerates, so we like drafting. But the game is won during the season with waivers, with setting your lineups, with knowing who to take off the waiver wire, with being consistent on these things and not forgetting, not missing. That those mistakes are the ones that are going to cost you. You've got 17 weeks to make up for the injuries that happen now. You've got opportunity to replace the guys that get injured during the season. If you don't take advantage of that and stay on top of these things every single week, you're toast. You can have the best draft on the planet. You forget to set your lineup a week. That could be the difference between making and missing the playoffs. That stuff's way more important than what we're doing now with the draft stuff, I think.
Yeah, just making the wrong decision during waiver wire if you're not getting the right information from somebody or doing your own research the right way. You've got to do it, and you got to be right. It's all. I had to laugh as somebody mentioned how Robinson owners are all lucky because the rookie got hurt, and I'm like, replied, isn't it this game nothing but luck? So I'll take it if it benefits. Yeah, you give me all the luck in the world because luck wins games.
And also, just for online etiquette and even in your personal life, don't take victory laps when someone gets hurt. It's bad mojo and it's a bad look, and it really isn't anything that you predicted anyway, based on the whole luck aspect of it. So be considerate and remember there's real people behind these injuries and not just the game that we play. But anyway, we are going to move into sort of the state of the rookie defensive backs. First 5 or 6, we'll see how many we get through here. And Johnny, as our guest, I'm going to start with you. We're going to start at the start of the draft here. J.C. Horn, number 8 pick by the Carolina Panthers. Had 2 preseason games. He only played in one of them, but from those games and then what you've heard about in camp, what are your feelings on him and any sort of viability he might have this year in leagues?
Okay, so Gary knows I'm not a huge preseason watching football guy. It doesn't matter to me. We're all taking shots in the dark, and we'll know for sure after week 1. So we all take our shots that we like. We hope they work out, but none of us knows anything right now. You look at any depth chart, from the unofficial team depth charts to our labs to anywhere else, and they're all going to be drastically wrong by week 1. Like it's not even going to be close. So everything I've seen on JC Horn, I literally saw 4 different people, like verified people on Twitter when I did my research for this today, said as advertised. So I guess he's as advertised. But my takeaway is the weak cornerback unit there. Besides Dante Jackson, who else is going to play? Corn Elder? You know what I mean? Like, no. He'll start. He'll play 100% of snaps, and he'll be a solid streaming option if the matchup is right, and that's what I'll use him for. I think if that's the way you're approaching it, you're good to go. He's not a set and forget guy. He's not Marlon Humphrey. But if the matchup's right, if they're at Atlanta inside in a passing game, absolutely fire them up. So that's my takeaway.
James?
No, I feel like I just keep saying it, but I'll echo Johnny. It's exactly what I would say. J.C. Horn, he's played a preseason game. If you've learned something from him playing in a preseason game, not 45, 1, you are either a con artist or a liar. There's nothing to learn about preseason games. There's absolutely nothing. The only thing you need to learn about preseason games is who's playing with what units. That's it. You want to see where people are lined up, what they're actually doing, how they're performing. Someone dropped 2 passes. This guy fell down in pass coverage. One singular instance in a preseason game is equal in a team's eyes as one singular instance in practice. The preseason game itself is just extended practice. People love looking at it because they haven't had football for 6 months and they're dying. And the people who love and dive in and analyze the preseason are the people who lose fantasy football games. Don't be one of them. Just sit back and go, hey, J.C. Horn is a top 10 pick. He's on a defensive unit where he should get some targets. Things look nice. If I'm in a dynasty, I want to probably hold on to him as long as I have cornerbacks as a set position and I don't need to start him as a safety because that doesn't exist. But in reality, he's not going to be that valuable this year. He's a hit and miss guy, just like Johnny said. Good matchup, sure. Bad matchup, cut. You're not banking on him doing anything. And, look at last year's cornerback class. It's already awful. So they could all be awful this year. Just take a step back. It's preseason.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of hard to follow that up, James. But, the first thing I had to say to John when he joined in the studio was, I'm sorry we're going over these rookie DBs. He goes, I know we got to do it, though. And it's right. It's got to be covered, folks. All right. So looking into the situation, he's clearly going to start across from Jackson. I'm not a big corner guy at all. I'm not a rookie guy, but in general, if you look at the 2 cornerbacks, they are both, if the rookie is who he is supposed to be as advertised, then him and Jackson could be plus side, graded type cornerbacks. And then of course you got Chin in the secondary, and he's positive. The only one that's not really strong in that secondary might be Burris, which is penciled in right now to play the starting strong safety this year. Again, actually, believe it or not, he played it last year. It's just really complicated with Chin running all over the place, which he's going to be doing again this year probably too. But what I'm excited about, maybe we might see, I'm going to be curious if Horn is a shutdown corner, if he's got that in him, it doesn't sound like it does. So in the future, one of these two dudes are going to be a target for IDP, because whoever's the better guy is going to get targeted less by the opposing team. And then we look at this pass rush that they have, which will force mistakes by the opposing quarterbacks or hurries. I mean, you've got Burns, you've got Riddick added to this pass rush. They actually, the Gross Mattis has really, they said he's like just grown in front of them. He's really developed. So that's great news. If this works out, I think long term, sure, these guys are possible potential targets to look at. Of course, Chin is. But when it comes to the cornerbacks and especially Horn, there's no way that I'm depending on one of these guys week one. The preseason's preseason, as those guys have echoed. I just don't see no IDP value to go and spend a lot of stock into getting a cornerback. You can get them off the waiver wire. They're dime a dozen. So pick you one for week one. If somebody tells you it's got a good matchup,
right?
Go from there.
Take Denzel Ward, Carlton Davis, or Trayvon Diggs week one. They got great matchups.
Yep.
There you go.
All right, well, not to disappoint everybody, but we do have another cornerback to touch on here briefly. Right after Horn, we had the number 9 pick to the Broncos, another cornerback, Patrick Surtain Jr., or the second, I think he goes by. He actually had a really fun game to watch. His first game, again, how much did you learn? You probably learned what you already knew. It's counterintuitive. But, James, we're going to ask you an actual question. Do you think he ends up starting for the Broncos this year with how he's shown, not only in the games, because to your point, he didn't learn much, but in practice?
My answer is I don't really care. Is he going to get targets? And I think he will. They got Ronald Darby. They got Kyle Fuller back there. They, in theory, have all the passing weapons on offense to be a high-scoring offense, which means they have all of the defensive options to actually get targets. So I kind of like Surtain sitting there, maybe in the nickel, maybe not moving up right away, getting targets, and basically getting opportunity to show us what he can do. Now, all of this kind of comes back to Drew Lock. I'm somehow going back to Drew Lock while talking about cornerbacks, but here I am, and I like what Surtain offers from a rookie perspective relative to all of the other rookie cornerbacks out there. He's my choice, but to echo what I said before, he's also going to be a week-to-week guy. They don't have a good matchup, no thanks. So he's higher than Horn, but it's negligible and frankly kind of doesn't matter. Just like it doesn't matter if he starts. No matter when he starts, but if he starts, I don't really care.
Fair enough. Gary?
There's nothing to argue. I can't get defensive with James. It's not fair, man. He's been nailing me the last few times he's been on with us or when he's on. Anyways, that's why he's on special mission, folks. Special assignment. Right. Yeah. All right. So, basically wrapping it up. Surtain is out there with Simmons, Fuller, Kareem Jackson. Could you believe that I looked up Kareem Jackson's PFF grade? Do you know what they gave him?
It wasn't good.
An 80. I'm not lying. I could pull it up on the screen right now. An 80. He was like a way above average. Who knew, right? Who knew?
They had him and Simmons as one of the best safety combos in the league. Yeah.
Right. It just doesn't translate into any kind of production in IDP worth really noting other than a bye week fill. But either way, back to the guys. On paper, when you look at this, if Surtain is in that nickel or if he's playing the slot, they're trying to make him into a tight end killer for Kels and such, whatever they're up to. If he gets a decent amount of playing time, wherever it is, I'm still just going with Simmons. It really doesn't matter out of that secondary. It's funneled to him. It's his defense. If he kicks to the outside and still comes in and covers, maybe he'll start offering some consistency, but he's going to have to be a really full-time guy, and I'm not going to bet on him again this year. Look at him in the future and see. When they throw around Champ Bailey's name, comparably to his, you never know. Just, I can call Elvis Michael Jackson too. So it really doesn't matter, So either way, I really hope that they can get a pass rush going to help that secondary. They didn't have Miller, Chubb. I mean, Chubb didn't really kill it last year at all. He graded out well, but I'd like to see a little bit more Malik Reed in that mixture. He actually had a good season last year with Miller gone. But when it really boils down to it, this is that same scenario. It's a rookie, dime a dozen. Until they hit, there's only a handful. Like you look at the slot corner for the Titans or for Pittsburgh. Sometimes they have a consistent guy that, has that 70% of the snaps, and he's just, he's getting all kind. But there's not that here. Probably not. It's Simmons' defense. So I'm not doing much with Surtain at this point.
Any closing thoughts on him, Johnny?
No, not really. I'm with you. So the one thing I do see though is like, all right, so base defense is pretty rare these days, and that second like inside linebacker has been an issue for them for a minute. Josie Jewell did not become what we thought he'd become. They play nickel and dime far more often these days. I could see him being on the field a decent amount out the gate, and then down the line, definitely getting enough snaps. What's impressive about Ronald Darby? You know what I mean? Like Fuller ain't going anywhere. That's for sure. He's incredible. But yeah, gun to my head, I'm with Gary. I just want Simmons out of there. Give me Simmons. I'm happy. That's all I want.
Fair enough. Well, hopefully we'll get into someone more exciting here for you guys. We're done with the quarterback.
Yeah, unfortunately, it really doesn't. But,
We'll see if you have thoughts here.
Right.
Because I know you're never short on thoughts one way or the other, Gary.
Yeah.
Number 36 overall pick to the Dolphins, Javon Holland. He did not play in the second game against the Falcons. He did play a bit in the first game against Chicago. He remains out as of information today with some sort of issue. It wasn't completely clear when I saw, but they said he didn't have any visible discomfort, and the D-backs coach, defensive backs it is, said that he is very impressed with him so far. He knows what he needs to do. He just needs to communicate better. He's got a bunch of picks in practice, which is good to see. So, Gary, we're going to go to you on this one. Have you heard or seen anything out of Holland to make you think he's going to have an impact for the Dolphins or fantasy teams this year?
There it is, folks. Green Jackson.
Wouldn't have believed it. That's wild.
80. I about fell out of my chair. I'm sorry. So I had to show that. Everybody's like, oh, he's drunk. No, this time I'm not.
People love PFF.
Yeah.
You got to remember, these are humans grading plays.
How's that go? A grain of salt or something?
Yeah.
It's another tool to use.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Just
exactly. All right. So we're talking about the rookie down there in Miami. He's going to start at free safety. That's definitely in the cards for him. I believe that I've seen that he might have some kind of injury he's dealing with right now.
Yep.
But it's still not going to matter as soon as he's well. Hopefully it's undisclosed, I believe. So when he's over that, he's going to be in there. They're going to play him. What I want to question is, it's the free safety position is where he's supposed to be slotted in at. You got Rowe in there at the strong safety, and then you've got Jones, which I'm hoping finally he's gotten back on the field after missing a couple of weeks, that he's going to start making an impression. But it's the free safety position. I just have a hard time thinking about how this defense is run and how they use the three safeties, and their cornerbacks are pretty decent when you got Xavier Howard and Brian Jones, according to at least their grades. So not a cornerback, folks. I'm trying. But either way, I'm looking at it that they have no pass rush other than Ogba. So is this an Eddie Jackson free safety type play where he's just like, what's your favorite way to say it, John?
Skid Marks Jackson.
Skid mark, yeah.
Yes.
Is this a skid mark kind of free safety thing? A guy that's going to never really produce consistently, because of his position and within the defense? That's what I'm a little bit worried about. So I just don't see them interchanging. bringing him up, putting him in the box or anything. I think he's going to be a true free safety. So when I look at it on paper, I mean, it's intriguing and probably one of the more intriguing ones on here because at least we know he's going to start. At least it seems that way. You know, it's starting to turn to pen to ink instead of pencil. But man, it's a free safety. I'm not buying in.
Johnny?
Yeah, that's true. There are very few like traditional free safeties that are IDP relevant. You know what I mean? Not many at all. So what I found here was I couldn't find any coach speak on him. I could find what Xavier Howard said. He said that he's their biggest X factor and that he could play safety, nickel defender. He was one of college football's best safeties. Just a bunch of nice things, right? Like we don't actually know. Everything else I've seen said, yeah, he'll play that super deep role, which is not IDP relevant. And he's not going to be Rashad Jones. People see a shiny new safety in Miami. That's the first thing I think of. It's Rashad Jones, but it's not going to be, right? So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to err on the side of caution with this one. There'll be other safeties that, come to fruition throughout the year that'll be more valuable. And if we just pay attention, we can get them. So that's what I'll do.
James, do you have any more excitement over him, perhaps?
I guess I do, but once again, Johnny kind of steals my thunder with his last lines there. I think that Holland can be a very nice player. I think he could be. Looks like he's slotted to be that deep safety, like you guys said, where he's just not really going to be that IDP relevant. But there's a chance later on in the year, things happen, injuries happen, he gets moved around, he plays well. But to start, he looks like he's going to be very much a hold. A guy who you don't necessarily want to cut because things could get better, but also you don't want to start him either. And these guys are the black holes of fantasy football. Guys who take up roster spots but don't actually produce. And that's why I would avoid him like the plague, because I can get someone else who's a lot better chance of succeeding well or failing well quicker than Holland. And that's what I want. I want to be able to turn him over if he fails. I don't want to have to wait and see. So, yes, I'm talking redraft, honestly. Dynasty's a whole different beast. But in the redraft, he's the kind of guy I hate because I don't want to cut him, but I need to cut him.
All righty. Well, Johnny, we're going to come back to you for this next one. Richie Grant, 40th overall pick to the Falcons. He's actually played quite a bit in comparison to the people we've previously talked about. Over 50% of the snaps in the first two games, so they're definitely getting a look at him. And most of his snaps, 42 out of 75, have actually come from the slot. So he isn't playing the safety position completely in the preseason. Is this something that you see as a way for them to get him on the field, or possibly a more long-term positional change for Mr. Grant?
I don't know, to be honest with you. But what I do know is, yes, just this last game, 18 were in the slot, 6 were in the box, and 9 were deep. So what is that, like 50-ish right there, just for that one game? If he ends up like on MFL or Yahoo designated as a corner and he's taken 50% of his snaps as a safety, either in the box or playing deep, we know that's a cheat code. That's awesome. That's great because you get way more consistency at safety. Any kind of safety, right, compared to corner. Corner is super spotty, inconsistent. That's why everyone hates it with a passion, except me because I'm a crazy person. But because the way he's playing right now with the snaps he's taking, MFL would look at that and be like, okay, he's a corner. We got to make him a corner. So that's something that could happen. If that happens, I'm into it. As a traditional safety, I would want to see more snaps at safety.
Yeah. James, any thoughts on Mr. Grant?
At this point, whenever I follow Johnny, I just go ditto because everything he said is correct. If he's going to play safety, have him play safety. He's going to get some corner snaps, and he really is playing some safety snaps, then I like it.
Shoot, I got more excited. I'm wondering, they have no pass rush whatsoever. Means, which flashed a few times last year. It looks like they're playing the 3-4 now. At least that's what I'd seen. I don't know if that's going to be their base or they're going to play a lot more of that. Maybe I'm misquoting. It still really don't matter if it's an outside linebacker or defensive end. They have no pass rushers. when Dante Fowler has fallen to your third best guy, and then I'm not even sure who's playing. I can't remember the guy's name, Mariner or something like that. That might be
Tuoti Mariner.
Yeah, which is an undrafted guy or something. I don't know, but either way, I'm really more excited. I'm not worried about any corners on this team at all. Yeah, I like the double designated type thing that Johnny was talking about, but I'm still not convinced it's going to be enough to really matter, at least this first year or in this scheme. But when it comes to, I want to see what Eric Harris and I don't know. I hate to say Harmon. Harmon actually produced a little bit more last year with the Lions than I was expecting. So if he is actually the strong safety, he might be a busy dude and be forced to tackle to keep his job. But, even Eric Harris in the back, I know he is a traditional deep safety, but at the same time, man, they're going to be terrible. Man, there's going to be a lot of snaps on defense this year for him. So just for the fact that they can't stop nobody, I don't think, Oakland and Deion Jones are probably looking at identical years they had last year. They're rebuilding or sort of rebuilding. I don't think you could say there's that much on defense after letting Neal go and such. But either way, if he's not playing safety, I'm personally not interested in him at all.
All right. And James, we'll go to you for the last one we officially have on our list for tonight, so Johnny can't steal any thunder that you might have about him. Andre Cisco, the 65th pick overall to the Jaguars. He's played in both games. He's sort of played all over the field, not really in just one traditional spot, which has been interesting to see him sort of trying to rush a little bit and played some in the slot too. So anything you see in him as he's trying to compete for a starting spot with the Jaguars, let's assume that he ends up being a starter here, do you see him having value for you this year?
I do. I think really anyone starting on the Jaguars defense who's getting consistent snaps is going to have value. And I think Cisco also could have talent along with that value. So in terms of having that nice variance that I like, I want him because I think his high-end peak is a very nice, weekly starter, which is very good, especially when you're looking as the fifth guy on our DB board as we're going over. So I like that. But also realistically, I'm kind of expecting Urban Meyer to use him as that jack of all trades all over the field, which I like, but I'm also wary of because I feel like that guy might not be a weekly consistent performer and is just very much high, low, and unpredictable, which I hate as a fantasy player. So I'm paying attention to Cisco. Everyone else, I'm kind of really not paying attention to, for being honest. I'm just going to see them when they show up. But I also just don't think Cisco has what I'm looking for in kind of a late round flyer guy. But if you do, I think you can go grab him and it's fine. But, in general, just to echo the same thing I say every time it comes to me, it's a rookie. I'd rather just invest elsewhere. I don't want to have to hold. I'll move on. I don't care.
Gary?
I thought I was going to get defensive on this one, but Tenny kind of damn you, dude. All right. So what it really boils down to, same thing. I don't even know if he's going to start. I honestly, from what I see, they're all tight with John Johnson, John Jones.
Josh Jones?
Josh Jones, believe it or not, is up in there. And you got Jared Wilson still returning. And then I think there's another guy floating around with Cisco.
Andrew Wingard.
Right. Yeah, he's on the bubble. He's on the right side of the bubble. But either way, he's the only one I'm even concerned with here is I think that the signing for Jenkins coming out of the Chargers, he's got to be the number one target in the secondary, as far as I'm concerned. If Cisco plays, it's just one of those wait and sees. Cisco play. Never mind. So in this whole situation, when I look at this whole DB class, I think we were all correct in assuming. I believe we was all on the same page way back in the off season that it was not that pretty of a class, especially at safety. We've been flooded with a lot better talent over the last couple of years compared to this class. The first safety didn't even go to what, the third round? Or am I wrong? Second round.
Second round.
There were a couple in the second round.
Yeah. So, and the whole class in its entirety was not that well. I mean, we'll be talking about the defensive line probably next week if that's what Craig wants to do in the same manner. And hopefully, stay tuned, folks. Something gets exciting because it's not happening here with the DBs. So, I'm really disappointed.
Well, Johnny, is there anything you want to add about Andre Cisco or any other names of note you want to throw in a comment about tonight?
Yeah, no, these guys nailed Cisco. There's too many chefs in the kitchen, but not good ones. Like bar rescue chefs in the kitchen. So I'm all set. Asante Samuel Jr. though, I am somewhat interested in. I am a sucker for genetics, right? I had a lot of Antoine Winfield Jr. last year, and that worked out pretty nicely. So, yes, I'm a sucker here, too. We all saw the Jimmy G pick. It was all over Twitter. We got people saying that he's going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, but that's got more to do with his odds than an actual chance of doing that. But what I really look at here is just another weak-ish cornerback core that, who really stands out there. So I think eventually he'll get some good playing time. He costs nothing. I liked his dad.
Fair enough. James, any other names you wanted to mention?
I mean, on that note, I was a huge Patrick Surtain Sr. fan, probably one of my favorite corners of all time. I hope Junior can, step in these shoes. We've got J.C. Horn, son of Joe Horn. We've got all these people who I'm going, oh my God, their kids are here and they're performing, and most of them have the same name, which is just odd, but I think everybody knows now. But again, all these rookies, there's a lot of wait and see, and I'm not the type of person who wants to wait. Give me production now, and then the guys who cut their rookies for not doing well, I'll go add them when it's time to see.
Right. When they hit their stride, if they're going to. I have no clue. I feel like we should be talking about the two safeties for the Raiders, but at the same time, I don't care. I don't know if you guys do.
That's my exact opinion. I feel like we should, but also I kind of don't care.
Right.
And when one of them steps up and it's great, okay.
Yeah.
But until then, it's not worth it.
Yep. Good stuff, fellas.
All right. Well, that concludes it for tonight. Johnny, any closing thoughts you wanted to throw out there where people can find you and your stuff?
Nope. Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm at idpguys.org. I'll be here, in and out through the season. Thank you for having me on, and football's almost back. Have a good night.
James, any closing remarks for everyone out there?
I think my rankings are finally coming now that my assignment has ended. So be on alert for those. Those will be coming, and in theory, you'll like them, and they'll help you win a league. And in execution, it's a coin flip. So just maybe look at them.
And Gary, any words of wisdom for people tonight?
Yeah. Stop being bumper humpers. Don't get right up on people's asses when you're driving down the highway. Hate that.
It's practical advice, so that's good. I mean, glad we got that out there.
I'm going to kill somebody.
Well, that will do it for us tonight on the Tuesday edition of Getting Defensive by Gridiron Ratings. You can catch Gary, JJ Winter, and Tripp, and possibly someone else this Thursday night. And
I think Justin Barnes is going to try to be in there. Yep.
And you guys moved to, 9 Eastern now?
Yes, we are trying to go at 9, folks. We get a couple. Well, we get JJ's a school teacher. I think Justin might. Yeah, I know he teaches music. I don't know. Maybe it's just kids. I'm not sure.
And I believe they're looking at the sort of what they did last week, but this time with linebackers as far as the start, stash, and trash. So tune in to catch that at 9 p.m. Eastern. But for all of us here tonight, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you go subscribe to the Gridiron Ratings YouTube channel to get involved in that next drawing for a subscription to the Draft Guide and Playbook. But until Thursday night, thank you and have a good night.
Bye.